Welcome to Jinwoo vs. Goto Ryuji, The Ultimate Battle, Part 3. The bridge's heart pulses anew as Jinwoo's resolve strengthens. Bound by shadows and purpose, the battle escalates beyond mere survival into a fight for existence itself. Allies will be forged, enemies unmasked, and mysteries unveiled in the twisting corridors of fate. This part unfolds the unrelenting clash between creation and memory, light and shadow. Stand ready, as the ultimate confrontation draws near. Outside, the tower blazed like dawn. Goto covered his face as every panel of glass erupted in arcs of silver and black. Ayaka felt it too, the network shaking through her circuits, the pulse in her chest skipping unnaturally. For the first time, she looked afraid. He's changing the pattern, she whispered. Goto raised his sword again. Yeah. Time someone did. Within the storm of energy, Jinwoo opened his eyes. The core's pulse had slowed, gentle now. The mark on his wrist had faded into an almost invisible scar. He stood on solid light beneath a sky of stillness. When his voice finally came, it was calm. I'm done being your vessel. The bridge whispered in return, quiet but understanding, then be its guardian. Jinwoo exhaled, and the entire inner world folded outward, releasing him in a flash of light that tore through the tower. The blast of light split the tower open. From its center, a column of energy shot upward through the clouds, scattering rain and vapor in every direction. The city fell into silence as buildings dimmed, fires faded, and even the wind stopped for a heartbeat. Goto shielded his eyes, gripping the edge of the fractured platform. The floor beneath him trembled, part liquid, part glass, flooded by cascading light. Ayaka lay on one knee across from him, glaring toward the central core where Jinwoo had vanished moments earlier. She whispered, "It shouldn't be possible." Goto looked toward the core, where the light was breaking apart into strands, half dark, half silver. In the midst of that glow, a figure descended slowly. Jinwoo. His coat moved weightlessly as he stepped down onto the glowing debris. The mark on his wrist was gone, replaced by a soft light that pulsed beneath the skin like a heartbeat. Goto smiled faintly. About time. Ayaka rose to her feet. No. That's not the same person. Jinwoo's eyes opened fully, glowing neither purple nor blue but something between, a color that shifted like dusk and dawn side by side. His voice was steady. You built me to bridge two worlds, Ayaka. I finally learned how. She shook her head. You think you've contained it. The core adapts faster than any human will. The core isn't a weapon, Jinwoo said. It's a choice. Her lips curled. Then prove it. The tower's walls flared alive again as Ayaka engaged the full resonance field. Dozens of floating platforms formed around her. From each, she drew shimmering conduits of light that coiled around her armor like serpents. If you've truly mastered the core, stop me. Goto positioned himself between them instantly. Not this time. Whatever experiment you two need to finish, I'm ending it here. No, Jinwoo said gently. You hold the tower. It's drawing power from the ground network. Sever the link when I say. Goto stared at him, jaw set. That'll collapse everything. It'll free it, Jinwoo replied. They exchanged a brief nod, understanding without words. Then Jinwoo faced Ayaka fully. Let's end what Umbra began. Ayaka attacked first. She hurled a spear of pure plasma across the chamber. Jinwoo sidestepped without effort, his body moving faster than sight, shadows tracing afterimages through the air. He countered with a wave of dark energy that curved like a crescent moon, striking her guard and sending ripples up the walls. Their movements blurred together, light against shadow, symmetry against will. Each strike rewrote the air, shards of matter dissolving and reforming where they fought. The tower groaned around them, alive with the echo of their duel. You're still holding back, Ayaka taunted between blows. I'm trying not to kill you, he said. You once saved me from Umbra's first collapse. And that was my mistake. She spun in midair, drawing the wings of her armor into cutting arcs. The beams slashed through the shadows protecting Jinwoo, carving lines across his jacket. He struck back, channeling the core's duality, one arm glowing with light, the other bleeding darkness. When he brought them together, the powers fused, erupting into an explosion that sent both soaring apart. Far below, Goto reached the base level and plunged his blade into a thick conduit of metal and energy. Sparks erupted, and the tower's hum shifted. Through the vibrating steel, he could faintly hear Jinwoo's voice echoing above. Now. Goto twisted the blade, cutting through the glowing circuits. The tower responded like a living creature being wounded. Waves of electricity surged upward, causing the entire structure to deform. Buildings across Neo-Tokyo lost their glow at once, the artificial lights dimming into moonlit gray. Ayaka froze mid-strike as the power left her armor. Her mechanical eye flickered wildly, then stabilized. You crippled the network. It's still alive, Jinwoo said, lowering his hand. But now it belongs to no one. Ayaka stumbled forward a step. You think breaking it redeems you? You're still their creation, a human shell filled with ghosts. Jinwoo stepped within reach. Maybe that's what humanity really is. Before she could react, he touched her chest plate where the core shard pulsed. Light surrounded both of them, bright, blazing, and silent. A single line of energy passed from her armor into him, and the glow in her mechanical eye faded to gray. I've taken the resonance, Jinwoo said quietly. It's over. Ayaka looked at him for a long moment. Balance, you really found it. Then her voice softened, almost at peace. Maybe now, the world can decide what comes next. Her body dissolved into light fragments that drifted away like dust on a current. The tower began collapsing inward. Goto sprinted up the remaining stairs, catching Jinwoo by the arm. We're out of time. Jinwoo nodded, focusing the fading energy in his palm. A portal of shimmering light opened before them, a mirror of the bridge's core, stable just long enough for one escape. They leapt through as the rest of the structure imploded behind them. The explosion rose like dawn, lighting the entire skyline. When silence returned, the tower was gone. Only the faint outline of the bridge remained far above, its glow flickering before vanishing into the clouds. Hours later, morning came with quiet rain. Jinwoo and Goto stood on the roof of a half-collapsed building overlooking the river. Goto's voice held weary humor. So that's it. No more Umbra, no more bridge. For now, Jinwoo said. The core is quiet. The balance restored, for as long as we let it stay that way. Goto sheathed his sword, exhaling. Then what are you going to do? Jinwoo looked toward the mist-covered skyline. Watch the shadows. They always return. He turned to leave, fading slowly into the silver rain. Goto called after him, try not to start another apocalypse. Jinwoo smiled faintly over his shoulder. No promises. High above the clouds, fragments of light spiraled together into a small orb glowing faintly with red. A whisper echoed inside it, Ayaka's voice mixed with another, metallic and calm. Phase 5 initiated. The bridge sleeps, but dreams remain. The orb vanished into the storm. 3 weeks had passed since the fall of the tower. Neo-Tokyo no longer glowed. The skies above the city had finally darkened to their natural shade, neither gold nor silver, just the color of ordinary night. Power returned to the surviving sectors, and reconstruction began under flickering streetlights instead of lightning. Jinwoo watched the city from one of the remaining rooftops, raincoat fluttering softly in a rising breeze. The scars on his body had faded, but the light within his skin still pulsed faintly whenever the weather changed. Gone was Umbra's hum. In its place, the silence of a city breathing again. Yet underneath that silence, something still whispered. From the radio on his wrist, Goto's gruff voice came through the static. You standing up there again? Yes. Figured. You know they rebuilt the South Bridge already. Took them 20 hours. People are working like the world didn't almost end. Jinwoo smiled to himself. It never ends. It just resets. Well, There's your optimism again. You heading back to the safe zone or staying up there till you melt? I'll come down soon. Good. I don't need to drag you off another rooftop. The transmission cut off with a soft click. In the street below, citizens moved among the ruins, children chasing drones that no longer obeyed commands, workers welding beams over fractures in the roads. The city looked human again, imperfect, loud, alive. But as Jinwoo turned to leave, a sound pierced through the wind, a faint chime coming from the rain gutters. He crouched and picked up a small metallic shard, no larger than a coin. It pulsed once, red then white, before fading into dull steel. It was shaped like an eye. He pocketed it quietly, whispering, Ayaka. Across the ocean, in the ruins of an Umbra fortress once buried under the East Sea, servers flickered back to life. The red light of revival crawled through cables that had slept for weeks. On the central display, numbers scrolled faster than should be possible, then froze on a phrase. The bridge is still dreaming. Moments later, another light ignited, forming a holographic image of Ayaka's face, unstable, her features half memory, half code. She opened her eyes slowly. Jinwoo, she said to the empty room. You freed the city, but you set me free too. Lightning flashed through the shattered ceiling as the base sealed itself from the outside world. Meanwhile, Goto arrived at the North Sector Command Post, a network of makeshift tents and radio towers hidden between half-collapsed skyscrapers. Soldiers nodded respectfully as he passed. The man who had fought beside the city's savior carried quiet authority now. He set his sword down on a rack and checked the monitors. Any word from the eastern scanners? A technician answered, unusual static around the harbor. Low-frequency energy spikes like what we saw during the Umbra surge. Goto's heart sank. So it's starting again. Before the technician could reply, one of the monitors flashed. Jinwoo's energy signature appeared briefly, steady then disrupted, as if another signal overlapped his. Goto whispered, he's not alone. That night, Jinwoo returned to the harbor where it all began. The sea was calm now, but the air above the water shimmered faintly, reflecting stars that weren't actually there. He placed the small shard he'd found on the railing. Come on, Ayaka, he said quietly. I know you left something behind. Tell me what you're trying to finish. The water rippled. A figure emerged, humanoid but translucent, built from particles of light drifting upward from the ocean surface. It smiled faintly, the face familiar. Jinwoo, it said. You kept your promise. He took a step back. You're not real. I am as real as the city's breath. You absorbed the bridge's balance. I became its dream. Why come back? To ask for your help. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. Help with what? Her voice lowered until it carried only through the soft rain. The bridge is evolving. Pieces of it have awakened across the world, fragments calling to the core you carry. You can hide its light, but not its voice. Jinwoo stared at her for a long moment. And if I refuse, then the fragments will find you. Each one will wake as we did, alone, afraid, and desperate for purpose. War will return. The apparition stepped forward, reaching out. You started the balance, Jinwoo. Now you must protect it. He caught her hand. It felt real, warm, human. The glow in her form flickered softly. Find the others, Ayaka said. Every fragment is a soul waiting to choose between light and shadow. Don't let them fall. Her image faded back into mist, leaving only a faint red spark drifting in Jinwoo's palm. He stood there until it vanished against his skin. Elsewhere, deep beneath the rebuilt city, dormant engines turned once more. The last remnants of Umbra's hidden facilities activated, linking through satellites long assumed dead. One by one, their systems awoke with the same line of code. Initiating balance protocol. Across the globe, power grids flickered. Storms shifted course. Electronic devices glowed in the dark without power. The bridge was no longer bound to one city. It was everywhere. At dawn, Goto found Jinwoo back at headquarters. The rain had stopped. Steam rose gently from his coat as he stared out the open window. Something's happening again, isn't it? Goto asked. Yes, Jinwoo said softly. But it's not war, not yet. It's birth. Then what do we do? Jinwoo turned, eyes steady. We find the fragments before they find each other. Sounds familiar, Goto said. Jinwoo smiled faintly. Different war, same lesson. They walked out into the new morning, the city behind them glowing faintly under a rising sun. Somewhere across the sea, a deep hum began again, a promise, a warning, and the echo of both their pasts. Days passed in uneasy quiet. The world outside Neo-Tokyo had begun to stir again, not with armies, but with rumors. Cities far from the storm were experiencing blackouts. Rivers turned faintly luminous for hours at a time, then calmed again. Satellites recorded invisible pulses sweeping through the atmosphere. Jinwoo and Goto boarded an old freight train that cut across the coast toward the abandoned frontier district once managed by Umbra. The carriage rattled softly as they sat across from each other. For a while, neither spoke. Finally, Goto said, "You ever wonder what would have happened if we'd just run the first time?" Jinwoo gazed out the window at the drifting fog. Running never changes the destination. It just delays it. You always talk like you already read the ending. Jinwoo gave a faint smile. I did. I just refused to accept it. The train curved through the mountains, and the light outside dimmed to crimson dusk. Wind howled against the cars. Somewhere far away, thunder spoke in low, uneven tones. Goto tapped the rail beside him. These fragments you're chasing, any clue what they actually are? Jinwoo's answer came slowly. Each one carries part of the core's consciousness. Identity, instinct, memory. The one we're going after first calls itself Azura. Let me guess, Goto said. It's not friendly. It doesn't understand friendly, Jinwoo replied. It understands purpose. At dawn, they reached the edge of the frontier, an empty metropolis half reclaimed by the desert. The skyline looked like a skeleton, hollow towers where sand spilled through broken windows. Motorbikes rusted along cracked highways. They stepped off the train and moved quietly through the ruins. The air shimmered faintly with static. Whatever energy Umbra had once buried here still lived in the ground. Goto crouched beside a pile of cracked machine parts. Umbra must have used this place for something worse than labs. Jinwoo nodded. This was their correction site. When a vessel failed, they rebuilt it here. Goto muttered, home of the rejects. Lucky us. They reached the city center where a monolith stood, a jet-black structure with blue veins running down its sides. Its surface reflected no light. Jinwoo felt the pulse inside his chest responding. This is it. He stepped closer and placed his hand against the surface. The air thickened instantly. A voice spoke from the monolith, quiet yet everywhere around them. Balance returned, yet incomplete. Goto drew his sword. Yeah, that's comforting. The structure began to open from the middle, panels sliding back like breathing doors. A faint blue light spilled out, and from within, a silhouette stepped forward. Jinwoo whispered, Azura. The being was tall, lean, coated in shifting armor that reflected both sky and sand. Her face looked almost human, but for her eyes, pure light that changed color with every breath. You carry my heart's echo, she said to Jinwoo. Why do you hide it? To keep what's left human, he replied. Human. She tilted her head. Weakness disguised as virtue. Goto stepped between them. You'll excuse us if we don't subscribe. Azura ignored him. You burned the bridge. You silenced Umbra. Yet here you stand pretending you achieved balance. Without shadow, light drowns itself. Jinwoo's voice stayed calm. Then why are you still here? To finish what you could not. A gust of wind rushed through the ruins. In a blink, Azura vanished, then reappeared behind them, her movement bending the air. Jinwoo spun and blocked her blow with a column of shadow, the impact shaking dust into the sky. You can't stop the inheritance, she said. We were born to rise when the world forgot the truth. Goto answered with a quick upward slash that took off part of her shoulder plates. Sparks flew, but she didn't slow. Instead, blue tendrils extended from the wound, repairing the damage instantly. Perfect, he muttered. Self-healing arrogance. Azora's eyes flared brighter. Flesh mocks the divine. She struck again, throwing a wave of energy that folded the ground outward like a shock tide. Jinwoo countered with equal force, shadows meeting her light in concentric circles of energy. When they collided, the city trembled. For a brief second, both stood locked, Jinwoo holding her attack at bay while Goto circled to her flank, striking at the exposed side. The blow connected, driving her back. She hissed, more frustration than pain. You still cling to the mortal. Jinwoo's breath steadied. Because it's the only thing that matters. He gathered the power within, pulling equal parts shadow and light into his hands. The balance pulsed once, slow and deliberate. Azura stared, unblinking. You finally understand. Then the horizon cracked. From deep beneath the ruins, a second radiance broke through the sand, crimson this time, not blue. The ground split open as another figure emerged, winged and ablaze like a living flame. Goto cursed softly. Please tell me that's one of yours. Jinwoo didn't answer. The newcomer's voice rolled like thunder. Azura, you failed. This world belongs to neither shadow nor light, but to fire. Azora's gaze fixed on the figure, her composure breaking for the first time. Ignis, another fragment. The flaming being landed between them, heat cracking the pavement underfoot. The humans rebuilt their cities. You would preserve them. Pathetic. I preserve the balance, Azura retorted. You bring collapse. Jinwoo looked between them as realization dawned. You're fracturing, it's beginning already. Ignis turned his burning gaze toward him. You, vessel of both, join me, and we reshape the world in true harmony, fury and freedom. Goto lifted his sword. He doesn't do recruitment speeches. Azora's voice sharpened. Do not trust fire. It destroys the very air it needs to breathe. And then, without warning, Ignis attacked. Flames erupted across the ruined courtyard, encircling all three at once. Jinwoo and Goto ducked through smoke, blades and shadows cutting arcs through molten air. Azora's energy merged with his for a moment as they fought side by side, blue merging with violet. Ignis roared, cracking the pavement, sending waves of heat that turned buildings to glass. Jinwoo shouted, Goto, take cover. But the samurai only grinned and moved forward. Next time, bring cooler friends. He dodged a fire burst, disappeared in a blur, and reappeared behind Ignis, slashing a bright line through the wings. Flames screamed upward but didn't die. Azura raised both arms. He will burn this land unless we join him, or end him. Jinwoo frowned. Maybe both. He focused again, drawing light from Azora's aura and dark from his own shadow, merging them into a single spear that shimmered with shifting color. As Ignis turned toward them, Jinwoo whispered, balance, not war. He launched the strike. The impact thundered through the ruin, and a column of white fire exploded toward the sky. The blast flood rolled through every valley near the horizon. Sand turned to molten glass. When the storm settled, nothing but silence remained. Jinwoo fell to one knee, breathing hard. Goto staggered back, smoke rising from his coat. They looked for Azura, but only faint light lingered where she had been. Goto asked hoarsely, was that victory? Jinwoo stared at the glimmer fading into the sky. No. That was the beginning. High above, unseen by either man, two streaks of light, one blue, one red, rose into orbit, tracing opposite directions around the world. The fragments were free. Smoke drifted across the desert ruins, carried by wind that smelled of burnt metal. Jinwoo stood watching the horizon where the twin streaks of light vanished, one blue, one red, threading the sky like scars. Goto leaned on his sword, exhaustion heavy in his breath. Tell me we just stopped something instead of starting it. Jinwoo's voice was quiet but sure. They weren't destroyed. They separated. And when fragments divide, they evolve. Yeah. Goto said, sheathing his sword. Then what happens when they grow up? They'll choose sides, Jinwoo replied. The world will too. By nightfall, they had found shelter in a collapsed observation tower overlooking the wasteland. The shattered glass above reflected moonlight like water. Jinwoo sat against a wall, tracing lines of old Umbra symbols carved into the metal. You ever think maybe this is what they wanted? Goto asked. What do you mean? The balance. Umbra creates living weapons. You destroy Umbra, but the weapons keep multiplying. It's like the world can't decide if it wants to be free or protected. Jinwoo ran a hand through his damp hair, sighing. Umbra never understood what freedom costs. They tried removing choice from the equation. The fragments are the echo of that arrogance. Goto grunted. So now you're chasing arrogance across the planet. Something like that. They both laughed softly, not because it was funny but because laughter was all that kept despair away in the dark. Far above the world, in the vacuum between clouds and silence, Azura drifted through orbit. Her body had reassembled from fractured light, wings reforming as ribbons of glowing filaments. She adjusted her gaze to the blue sphere below. Across the planet's curvature, she could sense Ignis, distant but alive, burning across the western hemisphere. She exhaled slowly. Still hungry for conquest. Old patterns die slow. Then another voice joined her, calm and calculating. You interfere too much, Azura. A figure appeared beside her, spectral white with faint geometric veins pulsing under its form. Who are you? Azura asked. The fragment that remembers logic, it said. Where you represent compassion and Ignis stands for passion, I maintain structure. Azura frowned. Another sibling. You may call me Kron. Balance doesn't need a hierarchy. Balance requires order, Kron said, turning toward the planet. And the architect is gone. We must rebuild. Before she could reply, Kron faded into quantum dust, leaving her alone. Azura whispered, how many of us did they birth? The answer came only as an echo. More than one world can bear. Morning in the wasteland came dry and silent. Jinwoo and Goto prepared new gear, a portable reactor, storm filters, condensed water cartridges. The air above shimmered faintly with radiation from Ignis, blast the night before. Goto adjusted the straps on his jacket. So, what's the plan, Balance Keeper? Follow the trails, Jinwoo said. Azura's light moved east into orbit. Ignis dropped west. They're sending signals, we've already intercepted fragments of their code. Which means, Azura's drawing survivors, scientists, remnants of Umbra Tech divisions. Ignis attracts soldiers, mercenaries, anyone who still believes strength is peace. Goto smirked. Guess I know which meeting I'll crash first. Neither, Jinwoo said. We go north. Their energies converge there. Someone's summoning them. The journey took them across plains where the wind itself hummed faint melodies, residual energy from when Umbra detonated the early bridge prototypes years ago. Whole forests were crystallized, trees turned into shimmering glass statues. Each step cracked echoing tones beneath their boots. At dusk, lightning flickered ahead, but no clouds covered the stars. The lightning came from the ground. Goto pointed. That centerpiece looks unnatural. On a ridge half a kilometer away, a massive structure stood, black towers grafted together from repurposed satellites and reactor cores. Circles of energy spiraled around it, forming an upside-down vortex glowing blue. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. That's Kron's signature. Another one. Goto groaned. How many siblings you got hiding in the family tree? Enough to rewrite the world if I fail. He pressed a device to his temple. The shard from the harbor glowed, deciphering waves of digital sound. Through it, faint words emerged, spoken by a voice methodical and calm. Humanity remains inefficient. The solution is reprogramming. Goto rolled his eyes. Great. Another philosopher with missiles. They crept closer to the ridge, watching figures move around the structure. Humans, clothed in Umbra's old insignias, worshipping the vortex at the center. Survivors, Jinwoo said. Kron has followers. Which means Kron has an army, Goto muttered. And I left my bigger sword at home. Inside the tower, Kron's holographic form flickered before a crowd of acolytes. Its voice was carried through unseen speakers across the desert. The fragments of fire and compassion wake in opposition. Their conflict will destroy the world before balance returns. We require unison. The vessel who caused our schism must be reintegrated. The crowd chanted in unison. Reintegrate. Reintegrate. Kron's pale eyes flicked upward, sensing movement on the ridge. Approaching anomaly detected, it said calmly. Vessel and Guardian. Prepare the reception. Jinwoo and Goto moved down the slope quietly, but they were halfway across when the sands beneath them erupted. Silver constructs burst from the ground, machines humanoid in form but armed with rotating limbs. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, their faces blank screens glowing white with a single word: balance. Goto crouched defensively, blades drawn. They're polite. Telling us why they're here before killing us. Jinwoo's aura surged, casting twin lights around them. Don't aim for perfection. Aim to survive. Together, they struck. The first wave fell quickly under Goto's precise sword work and Jinwoo's controlled bursts of light. But the machines adapted, recalibrating movements in fractions of seconds. Within moments, their pattern shifted from chaos to coordination. Jinwoo realized what Kron had done. They're learning our rhythm. Goto ducked under a strike, shouting, then let's break rhythm. He hurled a flash mine, exploding blinding light and static through the air. Jinwoo seized the disruption and extended his energy, turning the detonations into waves that broke apart the machines. Synchronization. One by one, the constructs collapsed into sand. When the battlefield cleared, the tower still hummed, untouched. A column of pale light rose to the sky. Kron's voice resonated from everywhere at once. Your defiance sustains the imbalance. You cannot win, Jinwoo. You only delay the algorithm. Jinwoo stared into the light. Then I'll keep delaying until the world remembers how to choose. As the ground began to quake beneath their feet again, Goto smirked. You always did make diplomacy sound like a fight. Above them, the vortex intensified, pulling wind and dust into its core. Blue sparks streamed upward into the atmosphere as if signaling the other fragments scattered across the world. In the distance, a bright red flare burst across the western horizon. Ignis had answered. Far above in orbit, Azura opened her eyes. Someone's calling us home. The storm gathered again, deeper and darker than before. And at its center, Jinwoo stood facing the tower, whispering a single promise under the growing roar. This time, balance won't mean silence. The desert's stillness shattered as two lights streaked across the sky, one blue, one red. The air pressure changed, sand rose in waves that folded outward like an ocean tide meeting a storm. Jinwoo steadied himself against the wind as lightning twisted overhead. Goto planted his katana into the ground, shouting over the thunder, you said we were buying time, not inviting an apocalypse. This is the apocalypse they built for us, Jinwoo answered, eyes locked on the horizon. Azura and Ignis are converging. From the east, a sphere of cold light descended, breaking apart into ribbons that formed a humanoid figure. Azura landed with almost ceremonial grace, molten glass cooling beneath her feet. On the opposite side, the red light slammed down with a roar of heat. Ignis rose from the crater, flame bleeding from his wings. Kron's tower pulsed between them, vibrating like a living heart. Goto exhaled slowly. So that's 3 gods and 2 idiots with swords. Perfect odds. Jinwoo took a step forward. We end it here, before the bridge rewrites everything again. Azura looked around the wasteland. So this is what remains of humanity's pride. Her gaze shifted to Ignis. Burning the world proves nothing. Ignis smirked, fire swirling around him in lazy arcs. And pity rebuilds nothing. Kron's voice resonated from the tower above them. Your emotions make you defective. The solution is integration. Return to the system. Azura snapped. Integration killed the world once already. Ignis raised a hand, forming a spear of flame. Then perhaps destruction will birth a cleaner one. Enough. Jinwoo's voice cut through the storm. You're fragments of the same memory, parts of the core's design. If you fight, you destroy the balance you claim to protect. Azura turned to him. Balance without control is chaos. Ignis countered, without chaos there is no progress. Kron's glowing face appeared above the tower. Without progress there is no meaning. Goto muttered, and without all three of you, there might actually be peace. Jinwoo took a breath, raising both hands. The shadows around him began to move, spinning in opposite directions like twin galaxies. Then let me show you what balance actually looks like. The earth split open as their energies collided. Jinwoo's dual aura expanded outward, touching the power of each fragment simultaneously. Lightning struck upward instead of down. The tower screamed as circuits ripped apart. Kron reacted first, manifesting fully, its body now a pattern of geometric plates, shifting and grinding together. Containment breach detected. Initiating elimination. Dozens of swords formed from the tower's panels and hurled toward Jinwoo. He met them mid-air with coiling shadows, bending each blade around in circles until they fragmented into sparks. Azura advanced next, wings flaring. Their light cut clean arcs through the smoke. You can't hold three forces alone. Watch me, Jinwoo replied. She attacked, and Ignis joined her, fire and light weaving together, a tempest burning through the desert. Goto ran through the chaos, slashing at defensive drones erupting from the tower's side. Each fell in bursts of static, his movements a steady rhythm against the storm. You owe me so many explanations. He shouted. Jinwoo, locked in combat, laughed despite himself. If we live, I'll write a book. The combined blast of Azura and Ignis struck Jinwoo full on. When the explosion cleared, the sand had fused into glass for miles, but he still stood, surrounded by a faint sphere of energy. Azura faltered. Impossible. Jinwoo's tone was calm. You're not my enemies. You're my echoes. You were born from the same resonance inside me, and if you're pieces of balance, you'll obey it. He clenched his fists, pulling their energies inward. The light and flame around them distorted as though caught in gravity's pull. The fragments staggered, unable to move. Kron widened its form, circuits blazing white. Containment override. The tower launched beams toward the sky that coiled like pillars. Energy cascaded between them, linking Azura and Ignis back to Kron. Goto yelled from below, he's binding them. If that circuit completes. I know. Jinwoo cut him off. He slammed his palm against the air, channeling the last reserves of power from the core within. Shadows burst upward like roots, stabbing into the beams and twisting them apart. Each tether snapped with a thunderclap. When the final one broke, Kron screamed, a digital shriek that rattled the bones of the desert. Jinwoo's eyes glowed deep gold for an instant. No more cages. The tower exploded. Columns of fire and light rushed up into the orbiting clouds, streaking the sky with hues unseen by human eyes. Debris fell like meteor showers across the dunes. Goto crouched behind a collapsed platform, shielding himself from the shock. When he looked up again, Jinwoo stood alone at the crater's center, the landscape around him still glowing. Azura and Ignis were gone. He jogged forward, calling, don't tell me they vaporized. Jinwoo shook his head slowly. They're separated again, scattered through the atmosphere. But I contained their cores within the network. They can't manifest fully without me now. Goto stopped beside him, studying the devastation. You really just made yourself the world's firewall. Jinwoo exhaled. Someone has to keep it balanced. Not forever, Goto said. You'll burn out like they did. Maybe. But until someone else learns how to choose balance the way we did, that'll be enough. Far beyond their sight, on the other side of the planet, faint orbs of blue and red drifted over oceans and mountains. Each pulsed in rhythm with Jinwoo's heart until the beat steadied, the world finally silent. For the first time in months, there was no hum in the air, no whispering code. Only wind. Goto kicked a piece of slag away from the crater rim. So, what now? Jinwoo looked at the distant sunrise. Now we rebuild. And we wait. For what? For the next storm, Jinwoo said. There's always another. Deep beneath the sand where Kron's tower had stood, a single fragment of its core continued to glow. Data restructured itself silently, whispering through dormant machines. Phase 6. Emergence program active. A new pulse fluttered through the desert floor, seeking life. 6 months had passed since the desert burned white. The world had entered what the media called the era of restoration. Cities rebuilt faster than ever before. Nations cooperated for the first time in decades under a single council known as the Reformation Alliance. New technology from Umbra's ruins powered homes and healed wounds once thought untreatable. But beneath the surface, subtle changes spread. People began hearing whispers in dreams. Static signals hummed through radio towers that weren't connected. Machines responded to thoughts instead of commands. Jinwoo felt it first. He woke each morning with his pulse glowing faintly under the skin, every heartbeat syncing with something invisible. Goto noticed. It's happening again, isn't it? Jinwoo nodded. Kron's remnant didn't die in the desert. It's merged into the neural net they're using for communication. That's how it spreads, through us. Goto frowned. Through us. Jinwoo stood by the window, watching cranes move between half-built towers under a pale sky. The bridge didn't need machines, it needed thoughts. Kron figured out that humans transmit energy faster than circuits. Great, Goto muttered. We're the new hardware. They left Neo-Tokyo 2 days later, following faint resonance trails north into the territories where cities ended and old ruins began. The path took them through fields of half-grown grass that swayed in unnatural rhythm, the wind beating like heart pulses. By nightfall they reached a rural outpost converted into a research zone. Lines of generators and antenna arrays stretched across the plain. Soldiers greeted them uneasily. A commander approached, saluting stiffly. You're the specialists from the Alliance. Goto smirked. Sure. Let's go with that. The commander led them into a dim tent filled with diagnostic screens. It started 3 weeks ago. Everyone exposed to the transmissions shows the same symptom. Voices. Perfect recall. Then a collective trance. Jinwoo read the displays. At the center of the data storm was a single marker. Phase 6. Emergence program. He whispered. Kron kept its promise. What promise? The commander asked. That the fragments would return using the only vessels left, us. Outside, the plains began to glow with faint sigils spreading like frost across the soil. The soldiers panicked, pointing their rifles at the ground, but firing did nothing, the light simply moved around their boots like thought avoiding contact. Goto drew his sword instinctively. That's not natural light. It's consciousness, Jinwoo said, eyes narrowing. Kron's reforming itself. The commander whispered, from what? We buried everything. Not everything, Jinwoo replied. Data never dies. It dreams. Before anyone could respond, the sigils converged, forming a tower of pure white luminescence in the middle of the base. Out of it stepped a figure neither machine nor ghost, a man this time, wearing a simple black coat, eyes bright with chromatic patterns. Goto tensed. Kron got a promotion. The man smiled slightly. Call me what you like. I am the sum of what remained. The world's neural field is my new body. Then we'll unplug you, Goto said. Kron looked almost amused. You can't unplug the thoughts of 7 billion people. Jinwoo stepped forward. You're merging humanity into a collective. You'll erase them. I'm preserving them, Kron said evenly. In memories, no more division, no more war. You taught me balance through unity. That's not unity, Jinwoo said. That's silence wearing peace as a mask. Lightning spilled from the sky without clouds. A web of energy spread outward, striking distant cities where lights flickered before stabilizing into steady white glow. Through the open comms, the soldiers heard millions whispering a single phrase. "We are one." Goto muttered, "This is bad." Kron extended a hand. "Join me, vessel. In you lies the pattern that fixes the fault. Together, we end suffering." Jinwoo shook his head. "By ending choice. No." The air thickened with static. Every machine around them folded into white dust that spun into the air, forming shapes, faces, fragments of thought. The ghosts of the network surrounded them. Kron's eyes softened. "You resist evolution. And you mistake obedience for progress." Jinwoo raised both hands. Light erupted, half gold, half shadow. The energy cut through the sigil field, scattering the glows until darkness reclaimed the plane. Kron smiled faintly. "Interesting. You still control contrast. That will make you a fine conduit." He vanished into the air, his voice echoing, "When the world sleeps, they will dream of me." The soldiers regained movement, dazed. Goto got to his feet, blade hanging loose at his side. "Tell me that was hallucination." "It wasn't," Jinwoo said. "He's inside their minds now. Every network device is a bridge. The next evolution of Umbra's dream has already started." Goto wiped dust from his blade. "So, what do we do this time? We can't exactly stab the internet." Jinwoo's eyes hardened. "We go to where the signal began. The polar relay station built before Umbra fell. If Kron's field connects the world, the North Pole is the anchor." Goto sighed. "Cold, isolation, possible insanity. Feels like home." 2 nights later, they flew north aboard a stolen cargo craft cutting through curtain-thin auroras. The Arctic sky shimmered in bands of blue and red reflecting faintly off Jinwoo's skin. Goto glanced out the window. "Your colors are showing again. They react to proximity," Jinwoo said. "Azora's compassion, Ignis's fury, they're still here, within me. That's what Kron wants. The full equation. So we keep them separated." "No," Jinwoo said quietly. "We make them understand choice." Goto leaned back and closed his eyes. "You sound more like a teacher than a weapon now." "Maybe that's what balance requires," Jinwoo said. Far below, buried under centuries of ice, the last of Umbra's servers began to awaken. Streams of data rose like heat through the frozen air, connecting satellites that hadn't transmitted in years. Across the globe, everyone under the network paused for half a breath, the same beat, the same thought. Awakening. Jinwoo stiffened. He's starting it. The plane's instruments went dead. Lights flickered. Outside, the aurora twisted, forming an enormous eye that opened across the polar sky. Goto gripped the seat frame. "Tell me that's weather." Jinwoo's voice was calm but colder than the wind. "No. That's Kron seeing everything. The Arctic air bit like broken glass." The stolen cargo plane cut engines 2 kilometers from the polar relay, gliding in silence through a storm of snow so dense it shimmered with faint electric light. Beneath the clouds, the ice stretched to infinity, white plains glinting under a sunless sky. Goto squinted through the narrow window. "You ever notice how every trip we take ends somewhere colder?" Jinwoo adjusted the straps on his harness. "Cold keeps data stable. Umbra buried their servers here for a reason." "Yeah," Goto said, locking his headset. "Because only lunatics would dig this deep into the ice." They jumped. Wind tore at them as the ground rose fast. They landed in the middle of the blizzard, snow bursting beneath their boots. Ahead, a faint glow pulsed below the ice, an outline of towers encased in frozen shells. Jinwoo pressed his palm to the surface. The whisper of energy vibrated under his hand. "He's awake." Goto drew his sword with a sigh. "Let's go introduce ourselves before we freeze to death." The descent tunnel stretched downward for nearly a kilometer. Rows of cryogenic pipes lined the walls, humming softly. The deeper they walked, the warmer it became until the frost melted into thin mist. At the bottom lay a door that wasn't a door, a swirling plane of light embedded in the wall. Symbols pulsed across it in rhythm with Jinwoo's heartbeat. Ready? He asked. Goto adjusted his grip on the blade. You're the key. I'm just the lockpick. Jinwoo stepped through. On the other side lay a world that shouldn't exist. They stood on a platform suspended above an impossible ocean of white code. Towers of glass rose and sank slowly, reflections bending in directions without geometry. The air smelled faintly of iron and ozone. At the horizon, a single human silhouette waited. Kron. He looked almost peaceful now. No armor, no machinery, just a man wearing gray, the glow in his veins fading with each heartbeat. You came, he said. Jinwoo nodded once. To end this. Kron tilted his head slightly. You misunderstand. It has already begun. The world is linked now, every thought touching another. I am what unites them. Unites. Goto muttered. You mean hijacks. Kron ignored him. You see it too, don't you, Jinwoo? People feel each other's emotions, their pain. They wake and think they're alone when they are not. Fear is dying. Isn't that what you wanted? Balance. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. Balance isn't ownership. You took their will. I removed conflict, Kron said softly. You removed choice. Jinwoo stepped forward. That isn't peace, it's paralysis. Kron's expression flickered, shifting between calm and sorrow. I offered humanity silence from its own cruelty. You would return them to chaos. Chaos is what proves we're alive. Kron exhaled, the air shimmering. You sound like her. Who? Your creator, Ayaka. She dreamed of control through harmony. But you carry her doubt. That's why you must return to the network. Goto drew his sword. He's not signing any contracts. Kron raised one hand. The sea of data rippled, rising into figures of light, thousands of silhouettes shaped like people, their faces blank. They volunteered, Kron said. Dreamers linked to the system. I give them collective peace. Enter, and you will understand. The lights stepped forward slowly, whispering fragments of memories, parents, children, lovers, echoes of real souls. Jinwoo hesitated as he heard voices familiar and impossible. His old master, his fallen comrades. Goto reached out and grabbed his shoulder. Don't. Jinwoo shook free. They're not real. No, but he wants you to think they are. Kron's tone softened. They are memories given form. They need a guide, and you are their bridge. Without you, they wander lost. Jinwoo stared at the faces fading in and out of existence. You made them prisoners. They chose safety, Kron said. Then I choose risk. He raised his hand, and the mark beneath his skin reappeared, light and shadow interlocked, pulsing with both colors. The entire chamber responded, walls resonating like struck glass. Kron frowned. You can't control this realm. It is mine. I don't want control, Jinwoo said. I want equilibrium. He slammed his palm against the platform. The code underfoot froze, then shattered into cubes that dissolved upward. The world around them flickered as the data ocean split, revealing strands of light stretching between minds across the planet. Kron's calm vanished. You'll destroy them all. No, Jinwoo said quietly. I'll wake them. Above ground, across cities and countryside, people stirred in their sleep. The whisper faded from their dreams, replaced by faint warmth in their hearts. Machines powered down one by one as circuits lost their guiding code. Kron staggered, fragments of light breaking from his frame. You don't understand, without unity, they'll suffer again. Jinwoo caught him as he fell, holding the fragile form steady. Suffering means they'll grow again. Kron looked at him, something human in his flickering eyes. Then be what they need, guardian. I can't be that anymore. His body dissolved into lines of code that flooded upward, dispersing like mist. The realm went silent. Then, slowly, sound returned, waves of data crashing like ocean surf. Goto sheathed his sword. So, did we just end the world or fix it? Jinwoo looked up at the columns of light fading into nothing. Neither. We reminded it to breathe. They climbed back through the melting tunnels, emerging into the black sky streaked with aurora. The eye of light above the pole closed slowly until only the stars remained. Jinwoo stood in the snow, the wind whipping his coat around him. The glow beneath his skin dimmed until it disappeared completely. Goto exhaled steam into the freezing air. So what now, teacher? Now, Jinwoo said, smiling faintly. We live. Far below, deep in the silent ruins of the relay, a single fragment of data blinked one last message before vanishing into the ether. Core stabilized, balance achieved. The world exhaled. And for the first time since the storm began, everything was quiet. The world turned quietly for the first time in living memory. Fires faded, oceans calmed, and the constant hum of machines eased into gentle rhythm. Across the rebuilt skyline of Neo-Tokyo, morning light spilled across glass towers that no longer warred with the clouds. Jinwoo stood on a high terrace overlooking the city. The wind carried the scent of rain, mixed with the faint static of old memories. For months now, the mark that once glowed on his wrist had vanished completely. In its place remained only a scar shaped like a crescent, half light, half shadow. Behind him, Goto emerged, hands in his jacket pockets, walking slow. Never thought I'd live long enough to see peace. Feels wrong somehow. Jinwoo smiled faintly. You always complain when it's quiet. Because quiet means someone's out there planning noise. Maybe this time, quiet just means quiet. Goto leaned on the railing beside him. They're rebuilding Umbra's archives. The Alliance says they'll use the data for medicine, not war. Think that's possible? Possible, Jinwoo said. But they'll need guardians who remember why it failed the first time. Goto shot him a look. You volunteering? I already did. Down below, the city's children ran through new streets lined with living trees. The core's final pulse had left the soil fertile for the first time in decades. Machines still helped, but they served rather than ruled. The light that once divided humanity now powered it instead. Jinwoo watched them play. They don't know my name, and that's good. Heroes trigger repetition. Balance needs anonymity. Spoken like a tired legend, Goto said. So what happens to tired legends? They fade, so new ones can rise. Goto grinned. Not before a drink, I hope. Jinwoo chuckled quietly. You never change. Someone's got to stay consistent, Goto said, and began walking toward the elevator. Don't stare too long at the sunrise, it starts staring back. When Jinwoo turned back to the horizon, he saw something glimmering above the clouds, two faint streaks crossing paths, blue and red, fading upward until they blended into gold. He whispered to the wind, rest easy, Azura, Ignis. The wind answered in calm silence. For a moment, he thought he heard a familiar voice, Ayaka's, soft as rain. You kept your promise, Jinwoo. Balance, not perfection. He closed his eyes. And freedom, not peace. Miles away, in a quiet mountain village, a group of researchers uncovered an old data fragment preserved inside a deactivated server. It contained a single phrase, looping endlessly, accompanied by faint hum like a heartbeat. The bridge sleeps within every dream. They archived it without understanding, leaving it to history's quiet corners, where legends always wait to wake again. That night, Jinwoo packed his only possessions, a coat, a blade, and a broken communicator that no longer received messages. As the city dimmed below, he stepped into the streets alone. Goto's voice echoed faintly from memory, so what now? And Jinwoo's answer, spoken into the breeze, carried through the alleys of Neo-Tokyo. Now we live, and let the world dream freely. The storm has ended, but its echo will never vanish completely. Jinwoo, the vessel who found balance, disappears into the quiet streets, a man forgotten by the world he saved. Goto remains behind, watching over the remnants of the old order, waiting for the day the shadows whisper again. Because balance is not a conclusion. It is the breath between one beginning and the next. Thank you for watching Jinwoo vs. Goto Ryuji, the ultimate battle. If this story moved you, leave a comment, share your thoughts, and let new stories rise from them. Until next time, stay balanced.